Are we on? Can you hear me?
Can you hear me? Microphone check. Lights. Cameras.
This is swanky. This is lifestyle. This is culture. Welcome to the social center of everything culture. Culture Daily.
Welcome back to our big conversation. Let me say one more time, good morning going out to all of you who are hooked on and locked on to the station. This is 3 Music Plus, streaming on radio at plus 89.9 FM as well. Now, before I introduce our conversation this morning, Charlie, people are winning big on 590 mobile. I don't know if you know about it though. If you don't, let me tell you about it real quick. It's very simple. Now, there are various games to play each and every single day just by dialing star 959 hash, like Asida, Sunday, all the way to Monday special. These are games that you can play on 590 mobile. Now guess what, if you make that money, keep mute because people will help you spend it. It's that easy to make the money, but the people will help you spend it. Like your moms, she'll say, hey, you pay your tithe, which is good. The boys will help you drink and eat kebab with it. You name them. The ladies will come for their hair and their bags and their momos and you know all that. So like they say on 590 mobile, when you win it, just go hash with the money, okay? Don't forget, stake responsibly, not for persons below the age of 18. 590 mobile at that 17. Now, since it's the early part of the week as well, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, you can take your partner, friends, and loved one to that Ghana's #1 cinema franchise, that's Silverbird Cinemas. Beautiful movies are shown over there. Mission Impossible, man. I watched an interview with what's his name again? The actor?
Tom Cruise.
Tom Cruise, and as he spoke about Mission Impossible and behind the scenes and some of the crazy stunts the guy did himself. Months it took to practice and rehearse them, like the bike jump into the parachute, thing. It took him months to prepare for that shoot or for that particular scene. They had to actually build real life, trains on that train actions. Go and watch the movie, you like it. It's at the Silverbird Cinemas. Indiana Jones is showing as well the best of Hollywood, Nollywood, and Bollywood movies all showing. You want more information? Just jump onto their socials. It's Silverbird Ghana. Plus, their website is silverbirdcinemas.com/West Hills/Accra. All right, you find it in there. Want to smell and feel confident? Then brush your teeth with Pepsodent Cavity Fighter. 10 times stronger teeth, you are guaranteed, because it contains profluoride and microcalcium ingredients, sealing tiny and invisible holes in your teeth that prevents cavities and keeps your teeth strong and your mouth also healthy. Well, lastly, let me tell you about Bang & Olufsen as well. Now, Bang & Olufsen is the particularly true brand in this ever-evolving world of high-end electronics that you might love to own, like TV sets, exquisite home theaters, speakers, headphones, soundbar products. They are constantly released daily, monthly, annually. Find their showroom at Atlantic Tower, Liberation Road, right here in Accra. Bang & Olufsen, like no one else. This morning, we're going to talk about something very important. Now, for some time now, well, some persons have been arrested. Let me take it off from Kwakesi's story, for example. Kwakesi was found to be smoking Indian hemp, or was it marijuana? I can't remember which one of them. And well, he had to serve a jail term, for that offense, because it's a criminal with our laws of our land. Now, we've seen certain countries like Canada and Co. that have spoken, that are benefiting heavily from the commercial use of is it Indian hemp, or can I say marijuana?
Yeah, hemp. Cannabis.
Hemp. Well, cannabis. It's commercial use, generating millions of revenue for the country. However, recently as well, conversations in Ghana started, and I think, correct me if I'm wrong again, that a law is being passed, or has been passed. Has been passed on the commercial use of cannabis. Hooray! But there's a lot to learn about it as well, on what exactly it can do for us economically, financially, you name all the illies you can add in there. This morning, we are honored to have the head of the Hemp Association of Ghana, our very own Anachman, join us this morning to have a conversation on the commercial viability of Indian hemp. Good morning.
Hemp morning to you.
Hemp morning right back to you. Before we even proceed, you realize I was finding it very difficult to understand marijuana, cannabis, Indian hemp, and all that. Can you give us just an understanding of these different names, if they are different or they refer to the same thing?
Yeah, first of all, the challenge that you have is a challenge that we all have, especially in the media, because every time we talk about hemp, they talk about we, and it's two different things. It's not what's on the table. So in terms of you talked about Indian hemp and marijuana, they're basically the same things, because we classify Indian hemp as marijuana. Indeed, what we cultivate here, we call it Indian hemp. So when we hear the word hemp, we think we're talking about Indian hemp, but really we're not.
Okay, so when we talk about hemp, it's not Indian hemp.
No, it's not Indian hemp. And the reason why we call
it's
it Indian
Ghanaian hemp.
Yeah, no, wait, let me tell you something. The reason why we call it Indian hemp is because of the war effort, and many of our soldiers went over to India or during the war were with Indian soldiers, and the Indian soldiers were smoking that, and they brought it back with them, and then they called it Indian hemp.
Oh.
Yeah, and that's why we continue to call the whole thing Indian hemp.
Well, because today the pomade I use in my hair had Indian hemp written on there. Hemp.
Hemp extracts.
Well, I use Kuza.
Yeah, yeah, I use it as well.
Ah!
Yeah, of course. Well, I use that. Everything I use is hemp. But anyway, let me tell you. Industrial hemp. Yeah? I'm changing now from the Indian hemp. I'm saying industrial hemp is a cousin to what we know as Indian hemp or marijuana. And basically the difference between the two are that Indian hemp grows about 6 feet tall, but industrial hemp grows to about 16 feet tall. It's a slender plant, it's got thick stalk, and that's where you get the fiber from and stuff like that for the industry. It has buds as well, but the buds are seeds, whereas the Indian hemp, the buds are not seeds, they're actually a cluster of flowers that are packed so tightly that have this tetrahydrocannabidiol at a percentage of up to 25 and 30%, and it is said that when you smoke those buds, when they're processed and dried and you smoke those buds, that you get a high. It's psychoactive. They call it mind altering. Now, with the industrial hemp, there are no such buds. The buds there just contain seeds, and in fact, from the seeds, that's where we get CBD oil, you see, and that's something completely different. So we tend to mix the two up, but they're not the same. And people have been saying that now that the law has been passed, that folk will go out there and abuse the situation, but quite frankly they can't, because no one's going to smoke industrial hemp. No one is going to do that, because the tetrahydrocannabidiol, which is THC, is 0.3. So there's nothing in there at all that is psychoactive. In fact,
under industrial hemp.
Yeah, under industrial,
which is like Indian hemp.
No. I've just clarified that.
Okay,
for you.
Because you said we're moving from Indian hemp. I thought you meant that industrial hemp. Sorry, the word industrial was just another way of rephrasing the Indian hemp. That's what I thought. Okay,
the Indian hemp and the weed are the same thing.
The same thing.
What we call weed are
all right.
But industrial hemp is
totally
different.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. The main difference is the THC, which is the 0.3, and the fact that it grows much taller, and that you can use it for industrial purposes and also medicinal purposes. The Indian hemp you can also use for medicinal purposes as well as recreational purposes too. So it's completely different.
Okay.
And it's the industrial hemp that has been passed in Parliament. It's not the Indian hemp, which can be used for recreational and medicinal use.
Okay.
A lot of youngsters are going around celebrating, thinking that now we can smoke
Indian hemp,
weed openly, but it's not the case. It's still very much against the law. It's just that if you are found with negligible amounts, you may not go to prison. Instead, you'll be fined, and perhaps on many occasions, the authorities may consider that you need help, i.e., rehabilitation and things like that. So they may refer you to a rehabilitation center, because perhaps you might have a problem, which is the reason why you are smoking Indian hemp. So it's completely different. It's all about industrial and it's all about medicinal.
Okay.
It's not about recreational.
I want to ask about are both grown in Ghana? Indian?
No,
and
not at the
Indi-
moment. At the moment, we just cultivate the Indian hemp, the weed, the marijuana. That's what we do at the moment
In Ghana.
in Ghana. We don't have any industrial hemp in Ghana. We only have recreational cannabis.
You're lost.
Yes. The terminologies are. I want to put myself in the shoes of some of our viewers
Yeah.
and understand, because you've just mentioned recreational
Cannabis.
cannabis. So we only have Indian hemp growing in Ghana.
Yes, which is known
Which has
as
the
weed.
THC.
Which
Yes,
is
which
known
has,
as
but that
marijuana.
hasn't been commercial. That hasn't been passed
No.
into law.
No, that's still illegal.
But industrial has been. But we
Yes.
don't grow that either here.
Yet.
No.
So you can import.
We import the seeds.
Okay.
You have to import certified seeds. The seeds have to come with a certificate that say that those seeds are 0.3 THC and less. And when those seeds come, you'll have to bring those seeds to the Narcotic Control Commission, give them a sample of the seeds so that they can be tested and verified that they are actually what they say on the certificate.
Wow. What are the commercial values around the industrial? Can we talk about what it, is it for example this kuzao that we use in our hair, is that under industrial?
Well, yes, I guess so, because I mean we've been using it like for years.
Yes.
It's a very popular hair cream. So yes, so we can say that. I mean, it's tagged Indian hemp, and you can see some leaves or stuff like that in there. But quite frankly, no one smokes leaves. No one smokes the Indian hemp leaves. So yes, it can be tagged as industrial hemp.
So what are some of the other benefits of the industrial hemp that has been passed now?
Well, other benefits are, if you look in terms of medicinal, for example, we've got a lot of people here with epilepsy and autism and PSTD, AHD, insomnia, hypertension, high blood pressure, a lot of people with inflamed bones and joints. The CBD oil that you can get from industrial hemp is very good for all these things. It's very, very good. It can be used for all these things.
Clearly, if these are the attributes of industrial hemp, what has taken it so long for it to be passed into law? What has been the challenge?
It's all about education, isn't it? It's all about educating the members of parliament, the lawmakers, because they are under the same type of illusion that industrial hemp is Indian hemp. You see, and there's a strong lobby against it as well. The Christian lobby is very strong, and they've been also saying, this is the wrong thing to do. Our youth will take advantage of this. It will destroy our communities, eventually destroying our society. And so they put across this false narrative about industrial hemp when basically they don't know anything about it. And so you've got to walk through that quagmire, of all these different adverse and negative views, which in real terms are not really true. So it takes some time.
Well, okay, kind of. You have some questions
Yes.
lined up as well.
The medical approval.
I think you want to speak into your mic. Yeah.
Okay, sorry. The benefits of the industrial marijuana. Is that the proper? What I said? We still say marijuana.
Industrial hemp. No,
Okay.
Exactly. So
marijuana hemp.
that is the kind of
Something
confusion I wanted to
different.
just
Okay.
clear.
All right. Can you get the same benefits from the Indian hemp as well?
Yes, you can,
Okay.
because the fact that the THC is higher, you're looking at curing cancer.
Okay.
All the cancers can be cured from the marijuana. To be
Okay.
honest with you, you can get a thicker oil, which has been dubbed Rick Simpson oil, because this is a guy in America who basically did his research and came up with that oil. It's very, very thick, very, very black, and you can use it when you're undergoing chemotherapy, because it helps you when you're undergoing chemotherapy, nausea and all that kind of stuff. It prevents all of that. But directly on its own, it can be used to cure cancer, prostate cancer, breast cancer, lung cancer. All the cancers, basically. It's very, very good.
Do you think that that's the reason why the government decided to pass this law? Like, what kind of benefits are they seeing that, passing industrial hemp?
The benefits that government is seeing are solely economical. And we've had to present that issue to them as well, that economically we're in need of money, aren't we? Because we don't have any money in our country. Some have money in their bedrooms, but the country as a whole doesn't have any money.
Shots.
Okay, so it's a money
Shots.
thing. It's a money thing. So were you a part of the team with trying to pass this law or trying to change the minds of the people in power?
Yes, of course.
Okay.
Empire Association of Ghana is an advocacy body, and we joined other advocates as reps on the Parliamentary Select Committee of Interior and Defence. And that's where we met with other members of Parliament and other SEOs like Ghana Export and so another stakeholders as well. And it took a period of time because we really had to look through the old PNDC law and work our way through that, because this is a law that has been there preventing the use of marijuana for a very, very, very long time. So we came and we talked about the fact that you can use industrial hemp to produce hempcrete, which can construct this entire building, and it's stronger when you use hempcrete too. Everything plastic can be made out of industrial hemp, absolutely everything, and biodegradable too. So with our water sachets and our water bottles that we just Fanta bottles that we tend to just throw into our open gutters, and then when the rain comes it floods everywhere. These plastic items would biodegrade over a 60 to 90 day period. They just wouldn't exist anymore.
Wow.
You can also produce the hemp wood, which is stronger than the wood that we get at the moment when we cut the trees down, and this also is something that would help us when it comes to deforestation. Not only that, you've got hemp charcoal too, activated hemp charcoal, which burns much better than the charcoal too, and once again is something anti-deforestation, and that's brilliant. The clothes we're all wearing can be made out of hemp. The shoes we're all wearing can be made out of hemp. The carpet that we have on the floor can be made out of hemp.
Okay. Let me cut you in for a second and throw in a bit of let me push you to the edge on this one. So these economical benefits of industrial hemp is something that clearly couldn't have escaped all our leadership from PNDC when probably this was put in our constitution, barring people from being able to use this product for commercial purposes. I don't want to believe that it had passed everybody's mind and nobody had seen the commercial value of this all these years, over 30 years plus, till this day as we sit, for it now to be realized. As for us in this part of the world, considering our level of education, accessibility to education in itself, and how people would take this, probably was the reason why for a long time this education hadn't gone down to the people. But we've had so many other natural resources that haven't been
fully exploited.
Fully exploited. Thank you. Fully exploited. Are there real investors available here or in diaspora or in other countries that are waiting for such a law to be passed, that you've engaged to see that if yes, it's been passed now, what is the next conversation? Is there any rollout plan coming out from your end on some of the things that are going to be done as in short to term or short to long term plans?
Well, let me answer that question first. For us, we also have Empire Agri Ghana Limited, which is a solely Ghana-owned company registered here in Ghana, and that company seeks to bring on board farmers so that they can cultivate industrial hemp and earn an income that way. We give them a number of packages. They come and they register, and basically we're trying to turn them into entrepreneurs, so that basically they can have a better control of their destiny. By and large, over 50% are farmers who currently cultivate marijuana illegally. And we have persuaded them that that's not the way forward, because it will remain illegal for the next couple of years at least. And so basically they should join hands with us and cultivate industrial hemp and make their money that way without having to look over their shoulders. So far we've got about over 250 registered farmer groups who are with us, ready to take advantage of that.
Wow.
And we've secured around 30,000 acres of land across the length and breadth of the country as well, in order to facilitate the growth. We signed an off-takers agreement back in 2019 when there was no law. We were advised against it, but we still went ahead to do it. That off-takers agreement is currently under review, because since that time, 2019 to now, there's been a little bit of saturation in terms of hemp and hemp products in the market, because other countries have moved forward while we were still talking about Bonsam Tower and, making different crude insinuations about getting involved. So that's still on the go. So that's there. Now, in terms of other investors, they are here, and many of them have been here since 2020 when the law was originally passed. You've got big guns from Canada, you've got big guns from the USA, you've got big guns from Europe. They've been living here. They are here, and they're waiting for the Narcotics Control Commission to say, now we can apply, and they will be there. They will be there. They're the big boys. But what we have to ensure is that we don't end up like Zimbabwe, Lesotho, Zambia, whereby they've allowed the big boys to come in, monopolize the market,
Which I was going to
and
ask,
then
yeah.
the indigents, we just become workers. 'Cause that's not the ideal way forward. That is not the way forward for Ghana. Because, of course, these big boys come with their briefcases loaded with US dollars, similar to the amounts that have been kept in bedrooms near and far. And it's easy. It's very easy.
It's the near and far for me.
Well, it's far from me too. Somehow I wish I was a helper somewhere. But they are there, and they've got a wealth of experience because they've been cultivating for some time now. So you can't beat them when it comes to the experience. You can't beat them when it comes to the resources that they stand on and that they have to hand. And obviously that puts it at a disadvantage. But it's for our lawmakers and the people who make the decisions to be able to overlook that, and for provision to be in the legislative instruments that protects us as indigenous Ghanaians, so that we don't get swallowed up by these big companies, multinational companies, who will just come in and all they desire is to take over the business from us. Because in Canada you can't cultivate and harvest 3 times a year, but in Ghana you can. In the USA, it's the same is true. You can't do it 3 times a year. Europe too, you can't.
Because of the weather?
Yeah, because of the weather. Our climate is perfect.
I was just about to ask if our lands are arable enough to...
Yeah, of course they are. Of course
grow.
they are. They're very arable. And I tell you something as well, when you talk about the land, and I'm glad you brought that matter up. We have a lot of land, for example, that has been poisoned with mercury and all the like. And the farmers are sitting there. Prior to that, they got some small money so that gold prospectors could go on their land and start, digging for gold. They've finished doing all that now. They've not reclaimed the land as such, so the land is just there. The farmers are sitting there idle, looking at their land, knowing that they can't go there to cultivate high value crops. Now, when you cultivate industrial hemp on those lands, you can reclaim, not even you will reclaim those lands so that those lands can now be used once again for high value crops. The industrial hemp will absorb all the toxins from that soil, and it will feed it with nutrients to bring it back up to scratch, so the farmers can go once again on those lands and cultivate high value crops. The same is true with our water bodies that we're fighting to rescue right now. A combination of dredging, and of course I think we will have to succumb to using some other chemical means as well. But the cultivation of industrial hemp on the banks and underwater beds will also assist in bringing those waters back to use, so that domestically we can tap into them again. Not only that, when you cultivate industrial hemp, it sequestrates carbon dioxide, and so it's also a great earner, because right now, back in January, the government were given $5 million as a climate change payment, because the World Bank was saying that we should focus on informing our folks in the rural areas that they should decease from cooking outside, because there's emission there, carbon dioxide emissions. And they also focused on the cocoa farmers who wanted to expand their cocoa farm, and that would mean they would have to cut down trees, etc., etc. That's deforestation. And so the government focused on this and managed to raise $5 million. Now, the European countries out there in the West, they have this policy where they talk about reducing emissions and all that kind of stuff, but they can't. So what they do is they come over to countries like us and they say, grow this crop, grow that crop, grow this crop, and we'll pay you $10 per ton in terms of the amount of carbon emissions you reduce. Now, industrial hemp is the biggest player when it comes to this. So as well as selling your crop to your off-takers, you'll also be paid, because they're queuing up to pay us for, give us carbon credits, because you earn carbon credits, and then they pay you like $10 per
green
ton.
Points.
It's not enough, to be honest with you. They're exploiting us, but it's money.
It is money.
Yeah, it's money. And so we're likely to accept that as well. But essentially the point I'm making is the power of this plant, how powerful this plant is, how eco-friendly this plant is, and how it can also have a great impact when it comes to global warming. You see? So, I mean, you talked about bemused about the fact that, our lawmakers didn't know all of this.
I'm quite surprised. It's anyway. But Olele, if you can also help us out with a bit of research with, and we have the numbers, but the contribution of industrial hemp to some of the countries and their GDPs. I don't know if we can find that. Just make a comparison and see what we've been missing out. If we can have. Okay. I was going to ask a question with regards to the cycle of the how it's grown and.
Okay, you can take that then.
Yeah, 16 weeks basically.
16 weeks.
Yeah, 16 weeks.
Wow,
4 months.
4 months.
Yeah, and then you there's a period for drying, which I estimate is another month, because you've got to dry it and everything. You separate the buds, because the buds have the seeds and the seeds have the oil, and the oil will be extracted from the seeds. So you separate that, pack that different, and then the rest of it, because it's all of it can be used. The leaves, everything can be used. You pack that all separate. So you're looking at 16 weeks.
Yeah, so I wanted to know, a lot of it is sounding like an export crop, quote unquote. How does this help put the local manufacturing, local products in a better light? Because we import everything, fabrics, fibers, everything. So what can it do for the local economy as well?
Well, initially we have to export because we don't have the money to set up the facilities,
The value addition.
for factories to create the value addition. So initially we will have to export, but we're not going to follow the model of the cocoa farmers because they've been exporting since God made Moses. And if you go to a cocoa farmer's house,
Zilch.
you know, it's just nothing is there. And the kids go to some broken down school or school under trees and what have you. There's no benefit for the cocoa farmers at all. So we don't want to follow that model where we're just exporting the raw produce, but we must generate some finance first. You see, because Ghana is a place that doesn't create an enabling environment. So no matter what business you want to do, so far as you want to do something legally, it will always be difficult, because if you approach your bank for a loan right now, today, they're prepared to give you a loan, but the interest rate is 42%. Now, you've got to be an international gangster who's peddling cocaine in order to take a loan from your bank, because
Paying back is
42%.
You're paying almost half of what you borrowed
Yeah,
as
you are.
its
2 days half.
interest before you even start considering the principal.
Exactly. You're not going to make it. So the enabling environment is not there at all. So you have to find another way. And that way is two ways. You've got to try and source finance from outside, where you can get interest rate levels as low as between 3 and 7%, you know, for the euro or for the dollar or for the pound. You know, you've got to go that way. And the other way is you've got to export your crop. And that will help Ghana too, because that's 4x coming into the country to boost up our own Ghana city as well. So that's the way we have to go for now. But of course, I say within 3 years of Hempire Agri Ghana starting, we will establish factories that will produce hempcrete, that will produce hemp wood, that will produce hemp plastic, even hemp water and hemp milk. You know, we will establish that. We tried to take over Jopong Textiles because we're registered as under the 1D 1F, which is the one district, one factory. And we had a meeting with Honourable, what's his name? We call him Alan Cash, don't we? Honourable Chairman.
Former Minister of Trade and Industry.
Yeah, the Minister of Trade and Industry. And we put it to him that we'd seen documents relating to the Jopong textile factory that indicated that government was prepared to sell it to a Chinese firm for 9 million some years back. And so we offered 5 million because we were going to supply the factory with hemp yarn and then blend the hemp yarn with cotton, synthetic material, wool, nylon, etc., because our textile industry is dead. Now, Honourable Chairman Manting said he wouldn't accept 5 million. The least he would accept was 20 million.
Ooh.
Yes. Meanwhile, we had documents before us that showed that they were going to give it to a Chinese firm for 9 million. They'd signed everything up, and the Chinese firm went for a walk somewhere. So it just didn't happen.
Left hanging.
You know, yeah, it just didn't happen. And we now, as Ghanaians, come and approach the ministry, and they've told us that, you know, unless you give us 20 million, no go. So we had to leave it. I understand that now it's been sold to a group. I believe they're also African, which I've got no problem with. I prefer it that way. I don't know how much it's been sold for or anything like that, but, you know, we were ready to go and do that and cultivate the hemp that would feed that factory. All the machines in there are from the day I was born, 1961. So they're ineffective, they're inefficient, they all needed to be changed.
Machines.
Yeah. And we went to that meeting with KPMG because KPMG were going to do all the work for us. And you know, once KPMG do a feasibility study and say, right, you need 100 and so million, that money just comes trickling in because KPMG is world renowned, you know, and the ministry saw all of this and still turned us down. They knew they would get their 5 million. I mean, that's what they deserve, really, because it's a state-owned enterprise, isn't it, basically?
Yeah.
A failing state-owned enterprise. But, you know, they didn't accept.
What were the fine details, if I can ask? Sorry, it's not a political show, but what were the fine details of this purchase? You know, what was supposed to be?
Well, we would let government...
That something should have shot it up to 20 million, and something should have shot it up to a first buyer.
I don't know. I don't know. But we were prepared to give government something like between 5 and 10% shares.
Okay.
In the entire operation. But it was totally rejected out of hand, and we were advised to go and start something new somewhere else.
Okay, let me just water this down a bit to the other side, which is Indian hemp, just so you can just have a bit more school on it, because in our creative art space, a lot of users of, if I can say, Indian hemp or marijuana have, you know, said time and time again about the kind of psychological impact it has on them, and it sort of expands their creative approach to certain things. What is your take on things like this? You know, people have said when they smoke the weed, you know, they get all kinds of, it sort of enhances their, I don't know what word to put there, but I'm sure you have a fair idea what I'm talking about.
I wanted to off tangent.
Okay, all right.
So exactly like what you said. So for the cannabis, the THC containing the cannabis itself, we have the variants, the indica and the sativa. But for the industrial hemp, do we also have other variants like that, or is it just a one serves all?
There's lots of variants because we live in a world now of genetics, don't we? So we can create strains that even have no THC but very high CBD. You know, you can create strains that will give you an industrial hemp that has much more fiber and less CBD. You know, so we can create these strains in the laboratory. So there are plenty of different strains.
Okay.
In fact, you see, I don't want to confuse anyone, but look, I say that no one would smoke Indian hemp, industrial hemp in Ghana, right? But basically, people do smoke industrial hemp. People do smoke it. You see, now we're going into the world of the genetics.
Okay.
Because, you see, you can create an industrial hemp
with THC.
Without the THC, but with high CBD, with CBG, with CBA. You see, there are hundreds of compounds. You see, and these compounds do different things. Like, it could reduce inflammation, it could deal with your insomnia. It can do many things. Indeed, Indian hemp is prescribed by doctors for smoking to deal with multiple sclerosis. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yes.
So I want to keep it just basic for us because our minds are.
So is that the reason, the reason why, it has to be carefully, the law has to be part carefully with a lot of, education around it. So people, because now you've just mentioned the various kinds of, the types maybe probably under even an industrial, that people might want to manipulate and then use for all kinds of purposes.
But we won't do it here. We're not at that. We're not there yet. So it's just raw for us.
So that's why it has to go through for all those processes when it is imported. The seeds are brought in before you plant them.
Yeah, the seeds must be certified before, So for us, it's just raw. On the right hand, you've got Indian hemp. The left hand, you've got industrial hemp. You can smoke Indian hemp, and on the left hand, you can't smoke industrial hemp because we're not. Our minds are very fragile. We're quite fickle, to be honest with you, because, as you said, the bemusement in this age where information is just flowing around us, like that. You know, you just can't understand why we're taking so long
Yeah.
with the uptake. Yeah, a little bit of culture involved in that, and a bit of, you know, the spiritual isms and all that kind of stuff. But essentially, it's a very good move that we're making. I believe that we can create tens of thousands of direct jobs, and we can create tens of thousands of indirect jobs, as well as giving government the opportunity to generate revenue internally through the taxes. So many things can happen. I mean, look, government has made it quite clear that for those of you who are going through school in the universities, that when you graduate, there's nothing they can do for you. You must go and find your way. They've even been talking about, oh, the type of learning you're going through is all book, and you need to be more hands-on. Even through the IMF has said to the government that you can only employ 5% of your available workforce. So we must find things to do. There's lots of great graduates that are coming out that can be a part of this, especially when it comes to adding value, you know, and we can't look past that workforce, because that's some great minds are coming out of our universities, and they're sitting at home because there is nothing there for them to do, and they're thinking rather of securing visas and going to anywhere apart from being in Ghana. Now we want them to stay, because we believe that with their creative minds that they can add a lot to the market in terms of adding value. But going back to the issue of people smoking marijuana, a lot of the artists smoke marijuana and they say they get a vibe from it and all this kind of thing. It's true. It's true. It's 100% true.
Okay.
It can enhance the way they see things, the way they think about things, the way they express themselves, and it makes them very, very, very creative. Trust me on that. It makes them very creative. And we end up appreciating.
Is there an element of
their work.
violence in there? Because it's been attributed
Not
to
at
lots of
all.
crime.
Not at all. There's violence in alcohol. That's where you find the violence. If all of us sat down here and smoked a joint, we'd probably come up with a song and start singing. It's more than likely we're in the studio, get someone would come up with a beat, and there we are. I mean, the worst thing that could happen to us is we'd fall asleep.
Or we'd eat.
Yeah, well, we'll get the munchies. We'll get the munchies first, and then we fall asleep. That's the worst thing that can happen. You know, we won't jump into our car and have a road accident, killing 3 or 4 people because we're under the influence of cannabis. No, we won't do that. That's what people who drink alcohol do. That is what they do. It's not what people who take recreational cannabis do. They don't do any of that.
And we have awards for alcoholic beverages.
You know.
So as far as like the hemp, if you're using it medicinally, if they're putting it in their products, I guess like pharmaceutical products,
Yeah.
does it make it more expensive or does it make it more cost effective for the user?
I think it will be much more expensive.
Okay.
Yeah, because you know it's a game changer. Because
premium.
you see, when you go to the pharmacy, say you've got a headache, for example, you go to a pharmacy, you get a paracetamol, you take the paracetamol, it numbs that nerve.
The nerve, it doesn't cure.
So that you don't feel the headache.
Yeah.
It blocks it. It doesn't stop the
It
headache.
doesn't stop it.
Yeah.
But you can't feel it. Now, cannabis will go right to the cause.
And get rid of it.
Yeah, it will go to the cause and kick it out. That's the difference. And that's why the pharmaceuticals don't want cannabis to come into that
Right,
space.
yep.
Okay.
And they're preparing now, I tell you, because they can't prevent it, what they will end up doing is coming to buy it all out so that they control it still.
Let's come to my next question. I wanted to find out that in this fight, passing the LI, getting the approvals, parliament and all that, it's sounding very agribusiness, very industrial. But Ghana is also the same place where we have a lot of herbal medicine, We have a lot of local medicinal products, bitters, all these things. Has that faction been involved in this in any way? Our homeopathic, the herbal homeopathic faction, have they had any conversations with this? Because obviously, if they're going to cook up other herbs and leaves and be selling as bitters, and there's such a superior herb like industrial hemp that can offer CBD, CBG, blah 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 blah, which has its own advantages, are they also part of this conversation?
Well, they haven't been in the thick of things, but we've met with one or two, and I've given some talks. There's a school in Ashaiman that I've been to, that I've given some talks to and stuff like that, and they're very interested because, you know, the herbs can work in combination with the hemp as well, with the CBD. You know, the main thing about the whole thing is it's all got to be researched and thoroughly researched so that we really know what we're doing. We've got the scientists here, we've got the labs here, but then no one is looking into cannabis as a way forward. And it's a bit sad because, you know, we encourage people to come to Ghana, the year of return, beyond the return, but we don't recognize, there's no recognition that many of the people who are coming to our country, they're actually being prescribed marijuana for one or two ailments themselves. And they just come into the country with it, then we're going to arrest them and charge them for possession of illegal substances. Meanwhile, they're even carrying medical marijuana cards. You understand? And we've not thought that far so that we can make provision for people like this who are coming. You know, so we've really got to delve much deeper into it, look much wider, you know, so that we can accommodate the people that we want to come home, come and invest, come and live in Ghana, you know, without threatening their existence as well, because we don't really understand the cannabis space, you know. So there's a lot more to look into, and our scientists especially, because when these people come over, if they run out of what they brought and then they need some more, when they go to the doctor doesn't even know how to prescribe it. He doesn't know anything about it. You know, he only knows about pharmaceutical drugs. But he should know about cannabis as well. Our scientists should be researching cannabis to see, you know, the potency and what it can do and this, and they don't even have to recreate the wheel, because Israel is just around the corner. That's the number one country when it comes to research and development in cannabis and its medicinal use. You know.
Well, did you get the figures?
I was just about to ask.
Yeah, I mean, I'm glad you mentioned Israel, but I'm seeing interesting things. I'm seeing China.
Everybody's on it, bro. We are last.
Yeah. China is actually supposed to be, is believed to be the world's largest hemp producer.
They're huge.
And you know what they're using it for?
Textiles, hemp textiles, and related products. They are even looking to explode even further, according to the a report that was released by the U.S. Department of Agriculture's
Let me tell you one thing they didn't write there. Because of the overpopulation in China, like Nana said, one, air quality, the environmental impact, what's happening to their water, what's happening to the little land they have. They are reclaiming and rejuvenating all that with cannabis. That's the genesis of why they decided to start. But if you study China, they don't do one of a thing. So like, if we can use it for this, what else can we use it for? But that's the main reason, because the population thing was...
Let me share something interesting with you. So the whole of Asia Pacific, right? The global industrial hemp market size was estimated at $4.74 billion in 2022.
But this is also with added value.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's not just a matter of growing it. It's about also now converting it into products for for consumption or for use.
But let me share this with you. So
because I want to find out that aside, I don't want the answer now though. But Nanajma, I want to put this out that it's one thing to grow it like cocoa, and I know you've answered that question partly. But it's one thing to grow it. But do we have the infrastructure ready to convert the product? I mean the industrial
harvest
hemp
to add their value.
to add the value.
No, it's a new industry. So, of course, we're not ready. Collectively, we're
Okay,
not
all right.
ready. So we have to get ready. We have to prepare ourselves and get ready. Empire Agri Ghana Limited, we have a facility. I think I shared the video with you, didn't I? Didn't I share that video with you?
Can't recall. I think I should think so.
Yeah. If I haven't, I will share it with you. But we have facilities whereby we want to establish the laboratory. We have structures up already. It's about clearing those structures out and equipping it with the laboratory. We also, as I said, we want to create the hempcrete. So we've got facilities there, structure there for hempcrete, hemp wood, hemp charcoal, and hemp plastics. So we are getting ourselves ready. But I think collectively as a nation, stakeholders, we're not quite ready yet. But we will get ready. You have to remember it's a new industry.
Yeah.
It's a brand new industry.
Okay. All of this just back to
so
your numbers.
just to continue, saying that the global industrial hemp market size was estimated at 4.74 billion USD in 2022.
global. You said Pacific.
Global. No, I'm coming. I'm just stating. There's a reason why I'm saying Pacific, because out of that, and of course, it's expected to grow at a compound annual growth rate of 17.1% from 2023 to 2030. Okay, but out of that, Asia Pacific leads the market for more than 32% revenue share of the 4.74 billion.
Charlie, the people they be viral so.
Bruh. And this is China, India, Japan, Korea, Australia, New Zealand,
That
and
whole side,
Thailand.
up
Yeah.
to down.
They are leading with 32% revenue of the 4.7 billion.
I think that's also because, similar to Ghana,
Well, thanks
they
to
didn't
Modern
pass.
Health
Most
then.
of those areas didn't pass for recreational. So if you look
Perhaps.
at Canada, the states, majority of the bills passed were not industrial. We have the likes of Mike Tyson and co going into recreational, 50 Cent, Snoop, everybody
But you know
doing it
what's
for
funny?
recreational.
China only became a leader in this conversation in 2016. They only grew their hemp on about 20,000 acres in 2016. So since 2016, 7 years down the line, they've been able to become a leader in this conversation, beating, of course, other countries in Europe and the United States.
Soon they won't plant rice again.
At all.
Hey, we are making money.
No, they'll
Because
plant-
Because
they'll plant rice. They'll
they've
plant
seen
rice.
a new market that they could definitely
and as much as
exploit.
it
They're
is to plant any crop or anything, relatively, comparatively, this is easier than you would having problem with any of your other export crops.
right.
Relatively.
Yeah, definitely, because
Well,
you don't have to use
The
the
pesticides, nothing.
and all that.
It literally takes care of everything. It replenishes the soil, kills the pests, does
Yeah.
everything.
It kills weeds.
A
You don't have to do
beautiful-
no
a beautiful
weeding
plant.
or anything.
Straight out of
the
Eden.
weed kills the weeds.
Yeah. and it doesn't
Magic
take
crop.
as
Actually,
much
the
water.
name. Actually, the reason why the name.
The
Yeah.
By 2027, there's a research here that's encouraging developing countries that by 2027, 80.6 the global market could hit $18.6 billion by 2027. So if there's anything we want to do, we may have to do
What
it
about
now.
struggling companies? Yeah, countries.
Struggling countries, they group them under developing countries. So
Yeah.
there's this research is based on raising awareness of the benefits of the hemp, in terms of industrial cultivation and obviously for
I mean,
reasons.
I'm excited. I may have a slightly different standpoint to the reason why probably it has taken all this while. And for me, introducing this culture to the Western world, just because of their, educational structures that can really be able to help people understand the economic benefit of some of these things. It's faster. I mean, take China, and like you said earlier on, that our culture, our DNA, does not really allow people to understand things so quickly. I don't know.
I don't know, Jay, because I still feel like there's still a stigma.
You are
behind
not
it.
among. You are not among.
No, I'm just saying, like, you're talking about education. Like, there's still stigmas when people say that they, use marijuana. You know what I mean?
No,
Even if
that's-
it's hemp, even if it's CBD,
you
it's
see,
still looked down upon, even not just in Ghana.
Yeah,
Listen,
it's true. It's true.
There's a lot of misconception and ignorance that balled up to create that situation. And even before we start hitting the farms and building the factories, desensitizing people and educating them needs to be an active part. Like Nana was saying, when they came back from war, right, they had these seeds, right? The name followed because of the transition of the product itself. But what else do you bring back from war? Post-traumatic stress disorder.
Yes.
You bring back all sorts of other problems. So here's this person who is smoking, right, but is showing out some other tendencies. But in an ignorant mind, it is because of the weed. But this person has just seen his whole platoon get shot down. So if he wakes up at night and he's screaming, it's not because of the blunt he had before bed.
I mean,
the blunt is probably the blunt is probably the reason why he was able to get some sleep.
Okay.
No, but I'll tell you something.
Do you get what I'm just trying to be funny about it, but you get the misconception.
But I'll tell you something. A couple of weeks ago, Vladimir Zelensky told his parliament that they should pass the law on legalizing recreational medicinal cannabis because he said that the soldiers were suffering from PSTD. He said the civilians too were
This is the
suffering
Ukrainian
from
president?
PSTD. Yeah. From PSTD. So we should move
They need to
very
cool down.
quickly to start cultivating and creating whatever they need to create in order to address PSTD. And they're in the middle of a war.
Yeah.
They're in the middle of a war, a serious war. And their president is saying cannabis is the way forward for our people.
What are the
see?
opportunities for people to actually get started? Because I'm looking on the website and I see the different categories. So if I were to try to not necessarily be a farmer, but how can I be a part of this investment? Because we see that there are power in the numbers and, you know, it's going to make a lot of money. You know, how can you be a part of it? How can somebody take part?
Well, we encourage people to come and see us in the office to discuss how they can be a part. Because we have investment opportunities via being a farmer, first and foremost. Because unless you've got the money whereby you can say, right, I'll import industrial hemp from somewhere else and start producing CBD or whatever, we've all got to go to brass tacks, which is about farming. Do you see what I'm saying? So we encourage people to come into Empire Agri Ghana. We're based at East Legon, and let's have a look at the issues. Let's have a look at your interest and see how your interests can dovetail into what we have available. That's what we always do. We always encourage people. You've come into the office.
Yeah.
You know. So there's one or two things that are there that we can look at and assist you with, you know, which includes your application for the license and all these things, because it's not just straightforward. In 2022, the Narcotics Control Commission had over 4,000 letters of intent, of inquiry about the whole thing. So can you imagine when they say now is the time to apply? How many applications?
Mad rush.
It's going to be crazy. It's the gold rush, the green gold rush.
My challenge here is
We have 2 minutes more.
Yeah,
So.
just 2 minutes, just a quick one. And I think it's very important to have this conversation. Maybe that's why we have been perhaps defensive about this thing. The abuse of the usage with normal drugs, even with painkillers.
and stuff,
Yes, even with painkillers, we've seen people go the extra mile to abuse. Do you think that's the paranoia surrounding the free flow or the allowance of this huge industry opportunity to be protected and to be guarded against our will?
Yeah, most certainly, my brother. Most certainly.
And how do we even try to make sure that it's
got to
within
be all
control?
about education, because look, we've witnessed people who have abused alcohol. We've seen what happened to them. Right? Have you seen anyone who's abused marijuana before?
Personally, I haven't.
No, neither have I. Have you? None of us have.
Well, we can't tell the behavioral.
But you can tell when somebody's
can.
drunk and you want
That's
to
what I'm
get
saying.
out of
With
it.
alcohol, you can tell
Yeah.
somebody easily, but
What we do is we say, oh, the madman walking down the street, half
We
naked.
attribute it to.
We say,
Actually,
he's been smoking.
Yeah.
But it's not true. I mean, let's go to the psychiatric wards and go and see who they have in there. because they say they're treating people who have psychosis because they smoke marijuana. But I say to them, that's correlation. It's not causation.
Fallacy.
Because I can have a relationship breakdown and become mentally unstable.
That's true.
could have a
Being
cigarette.
somebody who smokes.
I could have a cigarette
Yeah.
and become mentally unstable. I could be involved in a car accident and become
The
mentally
PTSD.
Unstable.
Triggering.
Yeah, you understand what I'm saying to you? So, it's they try to put it in that way, but they're just correlating something that isn't actually the cause
You're not showing any
of
causality.
psychosis. So they ain't got people in there who are in these mental institutions because they've been smoking weed. Not at all. Not at all. They're there for other reasons. And by and large, if someone, and I'm saying if someone smokes marijuana and then develops psychosis, you can check it out that person probably has mental instability problems from way
History.
back when.
I want
What a
to
way
leave
to
it
wrap
at
it
that,
up.
and that is what we are going to work hard on. I mean, it's all about the education,
Yeah.
and I think this morning you've given us very good insights into this. We're truly excited about it, and we're going to look forward to seeing the commercial value of this overtake, because clearly the product or the plant has got a lot of commercial benefits to it. So we have to look at how we can also be able to tap into this and have strong policies to guard and guide it, so that people also don't capitalize on this to try and sway people away from what exactly the direction is.
Exactly.
And that's why we have persons like you as well. Thank you so very much,
Thank you,
Nachman.
sir.
We are
I
honored.
have to apologize. I attempted to take a little diversion so I could bring lots of the products with me, and then got caught in the traffic and had to get back out of
Next
it
time.
in
We
order
want
to.
you back
Yeah,
anytime.
so I do apologize about that.
That's fair.
Because I got so much
You
products.
product.
that-
I'll come to the office.
I
It would
saw
just,
them in our earlier
astound you.
conversation. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, I was astounded. I was surprised when you showed me. I was like, oh wow.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
All right. Thank you very much. It's been a
you, sir.
great day as well, and thank you. Looking forward to the outcome of all this as well. And Ghana, of course, we're excited to be part of the conversation now. We are hoping that we also share part of the 4-point-something billion USD
18.6
floating.
billion by 2027.
If about 5 countries are coming together to take about 32%, maybe the other 50%, one
Europe
country,
is in there as well.
one African
Europe-
country.
We just want 10. 10% is okay. We should be fine with 10.
Europe has the biggest
We
share.
dedicate like 2 regions and just build a lot of it, grow a lot of it, and then we change the narrative. But thank you so very much as well, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you as well, and we're back at the same time tomorrow on Culture Daily. Don't forget, this podcast will be on at 10 p.m. plus also on our YouTube channel, so you can watch it again and again. And we are out.